Hi, I'm Weiren.
Hi, I'm Nicholas. Welcome to our premiere episode of TakChek or PekChek. This is our first episode here. We have a little bit of a jitters. So, pardon us if this seems a bit unnatural. I think we'll get a little bit more seasoned along the way. But like I say, since it's our first episode, Weiren, shall we tell the audience what is this podcast all about?
So just to introduce who the both of us are and what this particular podcast is supposed to be. So both of us are co-owners of the tuition center TSA, the Science Academy. I think you can see behind the very beautiful logo behind, and of course you can see via our t-shirts. Okay, so both of us have been in this industry for a really, really long time, maybe around 15 to 16 years. I've been teaching physics and math, and Nicholas?
I've been doing biology and chemistry.
Yeah, so over the years, we've seen countless and countless of students, maybe several hundreds, if not thousands. So we noticed several trends along the way in all our years of experience. And we see trends in education, MOE policy shifts, policy changes, students, what they find popular, what they don't find popular. And I think we will at least like to come here today and give ourselves a platform to discuss these things. All right.
And maybe just to set it in a more light-hearted manner here, we like to think of ourselves as having, coining out this new word, an education lifestyle podcast, right? Whereby we try to sieve the media, all right, of any interesting education trends, and of course any policy shift, as Weiren has mentioned. We put it out here on the coffee table, have a little bit of a discussion, throw in a bit of our opinions, right? That is, like I say, usually being seasoned by experience by dealing with students and parents, and how this might affect students, how this might affect parents, and also do it in a more light-hearted manner for all of you to actually to see on our opinions. So, you know what? With all this intro that's given here, I think our next podcast, we probably don't have to do this intro anymore. Get a chance to know us a little bit better. Okay, so I think one thing here that I would like to ask Weiren, okay, we can't really deny in our tuition center, in our setting, all right, you say that we started 15 years ago, so time really flies. I think at the time it was still really whiteboard, we have marker, you know, and I recall that I was doing biology. So things has to be very, very graphical. I mean, we do have the aid of using a laptop and projector. I think nothing beats the whole idea of the student looking at your hands, tracing across the whiteboard and gripping their attention and all. All right. But what are some of the grievances that your students have given to you when you are drawing on the whiteboard?
My students always say that my drawing sucks lah.
The drawing sucks.
I know personally your drawing is very, very I know your drawing is very amazing, but my students always complain that my drawing sucks. And I think from a whiteboard perspective also, like when I draw straight lines, I realize that the lines, because you're standing at an angle, the lines are never ever straight. So when you're drawing graphs and things like that, it's always like a bit sengek.
So sort of like the parallax error kind of effect, right? You think it's straight, but it's actually not very straight, right? But I mean, for physics, things like a free body diagram and all, you can't jazz up the entire image. I mean, it has to be this particular this particular shape.
It has to be simple lah.
Correct. So I mean, if you would ask me, I mean, yes, I mean, when I draw nice, you know, sometimes I think it's really for my eyes to see, not for the students to see lah. But you know, when I ask them to copy it out, they always have this whole idea, oh, do I have to do it like you? Do I have to do it in this shape, in this angle and everything? Then, you know, sometimes for me, I think that it's not necessary. So over the couple of years, I mean, schools definitely have seen an influx of students having personal learning devices, PLD, all right? So, I mean, apart from the very recent mobile guardian issues, which is not the topic of today, all right? I think that the personal learning device have actually aided a lot in their learning in terms of how they take their notes, and it's the behavior of using all these personal devices that helps to facilitate their learning. So in classroom, over in TSA, we actually have iPads as well. With Apple TV, we try to draw it on the iPad, we lecture on the iPad. And I think that, at least for me, myself, I don't know about you, I feel that having the ability to take screenshots and sending over to the parents and to the students sort of as like a backup itself. Yeah, because we can't discount the fact that while you're taking down notes during class, it might not be that accurate. So if you have a visual backup, it'll be much better. How have your students taken to using like you sending screenshots and all? in class?
I think they appreciate it. I think the at least for operations within the center, communications for us is a very, very important thing. So we on top of just sending your notes, your weekly notes, the homework, okay, as a backup, we also make use of all these devices as a means of like more open communication with the parents, with the students, and I think the parents appreciate it in general. Okay, and of course every now and then, we can't deny the pervasiveness and the usefulness of having devices nowadays. It's not like the old times anymore. So nowadays, if let's say there is something that I wish to fact check, for example, I wanted to know recently in class, I wanted to know the half-life of I think uranium, right? So I can just ask one of my students to take out their phones to quickly go and check for us. So I think this having a mobile device, especially in the class, is a useful thing. I think this brings us to the point of today's discussion. So there is this move to impose phone bans in order to, I quote the CNN article, schools in Singapore impose phone bans to reduce distractions and rekindle social interaction. I'm sorry, this is not CNN, this is Straits Times.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think, Nicholas, maybe you can share what you think about this.
So if I were to move back in a more chronological order, right, in our years of teaching, when we give students a break, and we have to be honest, right, having 2 hours in a class is a long stretch, especially for the younger kids and all. When we give them break, they tend to wander outside of the tuition center, get a bit of greenery, get a bit of fresh air. I dare say they try to take advantage of the timing that given to them, and they just scatter off to get bubble tea. They come back late, but okay, we know that they're moving around and all. But nowadays, I call it the prayer position. When I give them a break, their heads are bowed down 45 degrees, and with a very prevalent double chin on their face, and they are just glued onto their cell phone. Right, but sometimes if you think about it, even us as adults, we can't deny that when we have time, we have pockets of time. And by the way, we're actually parents as well.
Yeah.
So when our kids are playing around, we tend to scroll through some of the social medias and all. So I think that even if adult is doing that, it's a kind of cultural shift, that when we have free time, we are probably going back to our phone itself from there.
Yeah.
So if you think about it in a school setting, I mean, predominantly you go to school for learning, but there's also the social aspect. We want the students to socialize. We want them to talk to their friends, get to know each other a little bit better. But with this cell phone thing and all, I felt like this is a bit of a barrier. So definitely this move by the ministry, or I think probably will be implemented or has already been implemented already. I quote the article: there's a shared locker placed in front of the classroom. Teachers ensure that all students keep their mobile phones there until they are ready to be dismissed from school. And this measure helps students avoid being distracted by their phones during lessons and encourages social interaction with their peers during break. So we run back to you. If you are a primary school student, if you are a secondary student back in your time, back in our time, how would you have otherwise socialized with your peers during all these periods of breaks?
I don't know. For me, I was quite a slack student
I was
quite a slack student when I was in secondary school and JC. I think I'll probably have put my head on the table and sleep or something.
Put your head on the table and sleep.
In the past we would used to have books and we would read manga and things like that in class. Of course, we will definitely talk to the students, doodle, all right. But I think with phones, it adds in this new additional dimension of engagement with the students.
But could it also be the advancement in cell phones? I mean, back in my JC days, all right. By the way, we were both from the same JC. We were 1 year my senior. I recall I have this Nokia phone, NOKI. I don't know if anyone knows about that. But this Nokia phone itself, I remember it was this particular shape. I don't know how to mention it. There's a particular model. But at that moment of time, the coolest feature I can ever thought of is that it has a radio that was built in, and that there was a 3D snake. Nokia was famous for having the snake game.
Yes.
But this was a 3D snake game. But even then, whenever I have time, it doesn't come across my mind that, hey, you know what, I want to cower to a corner, take out the phone, listen to the radio, and play Snake. Because how long can I play Snake for?
Yeah, exactly.
How long
I
can I
mean,
play Snake for?
I used to have the phone as well. I used to have phones like this with games inside as well. But I didn't usually take out my phone. Just it wasn't a first instinct for me to take out my phone and then start playing every single second. I think the difference now is that with mobile gaming, like if let's say you take out your phone, you play Clash Royale lah, you play Mobile Legends lah, or what was that League of Legends like Bang Bang?
I think there was a Chinese iteration of Mobile Legend that my students are kind of crazy now. It's called 王者荣耀. like it's like a Chinese version of it,
or even Genshin, for example.
Genshin,
So like all these MMO, like the engagement level is so much higher. And the engagement level is like you can play with your friends, maybe just a few, like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you play one round of Clash. You know, I think it's a lot easier to get hooked onto these mobile games now, and I think not just games, right? It's also like social media. So even if you don't play games, right? For myself, inevitably, like whenever I have a spare pocket of time, I don't play mobile games, just to put it out there. Whenever I have a spare pocket of time, I will just naturally take out my phone and then I will open Instagram. I will open Facebook. Yes, I still use Facebook. I will open Instagram. I'll open Facebook. And I'll just scroll. And very often I find myself like, hey, what am I scrolling for? Yeah. So I essentially I realized that I'm doom scrolling. And my son as well, I think once you give him a phone or give him a tablet, I think he will just be stuck there for ages and ages and ages. Right? Be it games, watching things on Netflix, right? So yeah, I you cannot deny the very addictive nature from like the mobile devices nowadays. And I think yourself being the bio person, you do have some insight on this.
Okay, so I mean by nature itself, so we're going to get a bit sciencey over here. All right, so we have this particular neurotransmitter in our head, we call it as dopamine. All right, so people talk about the dopamine rush, and dopamine itself is basically a neurotransmitter that is a rewarding kind of a neurotransmitter. If you do something, it feels good to you, the brain gets reinforced, saying that, hey, you know what, this makes the user happy, and you are now seeking for the next dopamine rush itself from that. So in short itself, it is released usually, and we're talking about primitive time, all right? Like when dinosaurs are like roaming and everything. This itself is usually released when you're eating food, particularly food that for the first time you eat and you find that it's very delicious. Your brain craves for the same food again. So your favorite char kway teow, your favorite Indian rojak, you know, when you're near that, your brain is now raring to release the dopamine. All right, and also when you're having a mating ritual, sexual intercourse, and as well as we exercise. And this itself is also rewarding when you have successful social interaction. Okay, so now the rubrics of a social interaction, as we have just discussed, has been shifting. So it used to be face-to-face, and maybe when there was the invention of telephones and all, you can call over the landline. But now you have FaceTime, you have, I don't know, is Omegle, is that how you pronounce it?
I think Omegle was close.
Was a bit close, all right. Then, I mean, you also have, I believe, things like Snapchat. I think people might think that I'm damn boomer, all right. Now people will do the WhatsApp bubble, you know, with your face inside. It's like a video bubble that people send.
Wow, I have no...
Okay, I was actually being schooled by one of my students. They taught me how to use it. And then there's also Telegram and all how they send all this thing. So, on the use of smartphone, right? So smartphones, literally, once the smartphone floodgate has opened, it's sort of like a Pandora box. You now have unlimited social media at your whimsical, 24/7. You want to use it as much, want to use it as little, want to use it underneath the blankets when you're supposed to sleep, when you're taking your night pee, you want to use your phone and all, you can use it. All right. And before we dive into that, I think this also has to do with the advancement of data networks, 5G networks, 4G networks, 3G. I recall back to the Nokia days when I want to use my Nokia phone to surf the net. I think I finished running 2.4, the web page haven't even loaded yet. It's new and it's crawling and all. So there is this whole idea of notification. And I think that this is something I want to discuss a little bit more in depth. So when you get a Facebook notification, someone messaged you, someone wrote on your wall, and if you go for Instagram, people comment on your reel, people like your reel, or Telegram, you have that little consistent number, all right, that's beside the app to tell you how many notifications you have listed. That's accumulative nature.
Yes, this is something that always gives me anxiety.
Yeah, because I need to play it. I need to play,
Yeah, there's this idea that, oh shit, I need to get the number down as low as possible.
Correct. So this numbering system and this little notification that's dropping down on your phone and all, it has becomes what we call as a positive social stimulus. It's like you are pops, right? In the students' lingo, you are popular among your peers. You mean something. People want to reach out to you for your opinion. People just want to have a banter, have a chat with you, right? This kind of positive social interaction or positive social stimulus gives you a dopamine influx. And social media's company are not thick and foolish. They know. So again, on research by this psychologist called Neil Eel, I don't know if I butchered that person's name. All right, they are using this particular model known as the hook model. All right, so let me just describe what's the hook model, so quote unquote. So the hook model has 4 stages of user interaction with a habit-forming product. They want you to be habitual. They want you to use their products, right? So as you surf the net, you will receive a trigger to persuade you. So persuasion is number 1. And then after that, if you were persuaded and you were to visit the site and interact a little bit more, it will have an action, all right, to want you to continue to use it. So tuition center, all right, or even things like, let's talk about product line, all right. So let's say I were to go to, the one that was very, recently I was thinking about, selling my house, buying my house and all. So I've been doing my fair share of research. So I went to a lot of sites on property and all. Consistently, but this particular site, all right, when I'm scrolling down, suddenly there's this, how can I help you? Can I talk to you?
Yes.
So it felt like, I have to interact, It felt like, it's trying to grab me there a little bit
And it's
longer.
always the AI chatbot.
Yeah, I mean, we all know it's the AI chatbot, but again, it's like, they are noticing me, So, and then after that, you will have a variable reward for doing that action. So I think back in the days of Instagram, recently, okay, there was this reel that we posted on our Instagram, right? So myself, I'm guilty of it. When a reel is being posted, usually you know how many people watch your reel, all right, or like your reel. But maybe it's me, I'm a little bit slow. Nowadays, when your reel hits a certain threshold of views, it will suddenly pop up, hey, your reel has reached 500 plays.
Yes.
Wow, that is like a boost to my ego and all, So I'm anticipating for that particular thing, And lastly itself, okay, they will loop this over and over again to build what this psychologist term as digital habits. So we can use a mobile game, for example. So I don't dabble in a lot of games, but I think much more than you, right? But recently, I've been playing this game called Pokemon TCG Live. It's a card game, all right? So basically, it's all on the idea of I will play the game, I get a reward. It's like a ladder like that. Yeah. Do you have any experience on games that hook you in to go back over and over again just to like Stardew Valley, right?
Oh yeah. I used to spend plenty of time on Stardew Valley. I don't know, like all these kind of farming game, management games, like they scratch a certain itch lah. And there's always something to do. Yeah, so the Stardew Valley is one example of a very well
no end game on it.
Yeah, there's no end game.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a very, very well made game where there's always something to do, and there's something for everybody, and there's something for all different kinds of play styles as well. So
with this kind of like hook model, and as a parent myself, I would never ever think of there are so much effort made to get people hooked on something, and they are throwing in dollars for all this R&D. Then I mean, you have kids. We have kids. Maybe you talk about your kid who is young, but he's in primary school now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how are you worried about this?
Oh yes, of course. So my wife and I make very we are particularly concerned about how much screen time he gets.
Okay.
And my son really he soaks up the media like a sponge. He really absorbs and everything that he sees on media. So and not just my son, my daughter as well, who's even younger. So the both of them, they watch. They're very into, like, say, Bluey. Okay, they end up talking a little bit like Bluey. They end up using the some Australian terms like Dunny and
Okay.
Dunny to refer to the toilet and whatnot. So we know that they are particularly susceptible to what they see on their devices, on TV. So my son especially, he seems particularly susceptible to this kind of gaming addiction. We have introduced him to a few games. We have introduced him Minecraft, some Pokemon, and he always begs me for more screen time. But my wife and I, we are both very firm about it. Within 1 week, you only get 1 hour of game time.
Okay. One pivotal question for you, okay?
Yeah.
Does your son has a means for you to contact him or vice versa now at his age?
So we don't give my son. So I understand that there are a number of parents who send their kids to primary school with not exactly with a mobile device. I think the parenting landscape, I believe a long time ago, the parenting landscape was such that the parents were not really sure. When my son goes to primary school, do I give him a phone? Do I not give him a phone? I think now the general consensus is, okay, you do not get a phone until you reach like upper primary at the very least. So for the younger students, I am aware that the primary parents will give their kids a smartwatch. For myself, I don't give my son a smartwatch at all. I remember the school principal telling us, like, no smartwatches, no phones.
Okay.
And similar to what we're discussing today, I think this is personally, I feel that this is a good thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I just want to look at the other camp, okay? Because I mean, the whole idea of comms with our kids is such that timeliness, like, hey, today mama or papa cannot pick you,
Yes.
Nai or Yeye is coming over to
Yes.
pick you. But if we were to keep their devices,
Yeah.
then how is this promptly communicated to them?
So for primary school, at least for my son who's in P1, really we do things old school. We do things old school. I think the maximum, the best thing that we do is we put a tracker in his bag, just so that if, let's say, he does decide to wander out of school, or for some reason the school actually let him exit the compounds, we will be able to locate him.
So you got like a geofencing kind of...
Yes.
Okay.
So we put a tracker in his bag. But of course that's limited in itself. If he doesn't take his bag, then obviously he's lost. So for my wife and I, we really do things old school. We tell my son, like, oh, okay, at 1:30 we will come and fetch you. We come and fetch you from this specific gate at this specific time. If, let's say, there are any like different arrangements within the week, we will let my son know beforehand.
But
yeah.
So I mean, you have a school-going kid, all right? So how old will your boy get his first phone?
Wow, this is something that I haven't really discussed with. We are on the same page with regards to this. We know that we'll definitely give him a phone sometime in upper primary, or we feel that the right age to give him a phone is sometime around upper primary.
So P5, P6?
Around at least P4.
At least P4.
But even then, I don't speak for my wife, okay, but personally I feel that access to internet should be very limited. Very limited, because I don't want him to go on to like have free access to all these media, right?
So you see, like, I mean, we don't want to take any sides too heavily, but with the article that was actually placed, right? And I mean, we to quote unquote lah, all right? I mean, if let's say the inevitability over here of everyone access to devices is it supposed to be embraced or shamed upon? Because if let's say you take away fire, sure the chance of arson will decrease. I mean, let's say the technology of fire is not there but there are the good part of it, which is the warmth, that fire brings about. So with this anecdote, you bring back to the cell phone. I think now it's no longer of like when you're going to get it, and not of you won't get it or you will get it, but more on how to have a successful, how do we like go around this, knowing that they are using it for the right reason, but yet as they get older, you will also want to give them a bit more autonomy, right? So because go on, please.
I personally feel that for access to mobile devices, I think from a parenting perspective, is the definitely my personal opinion is that you want to, while the kid is still developing, like in primary school, less mobile devices are okay, because they need to learn how to regulate themselves. I think the main thing here is when they go up to secondary school, when they become teenagers, when we recognize that, hey, they actually have that autonomy to own a mobile device, and when the communication with various parties, like their school teachers, their friends, their group mates from whatever project that they're working on, how do we balance this in a home setting, and how do we balance this in a school setting? And of course, like as tuition center owners ourselves, how do we balance this in a tuition setting as well?
So in the article, they mentioned that we keep the phones, all right, but the schools itself will have designated areas, all right, like during recess or after school or at the foyer for this mobile device to be used. Okay, I have some opinion on this because, the kids will have data, all right? So the data itself is run by telecoms, and the telecoms, basically they don't have any restricted site. So unless kids whose parents don't give them any data plans, then they will latch onto the school Wi-Fi, and the administrator can then blacklist certain sites and all. So if we come back to this a little bit, should we not even give kids data at all? Because then who is to regulate them? I mean, if the parents have sort of like a device management thing, I think it's fine. But we can't deny the fact that there's still a small subset of students whose parents are a bit more liberal. All right, they want the kids to be communicated, has a means to relax, and then the data thing, the kids doesn't use the school Wi-Fi, then they will be surfing undesirable websites. And should we not even let them use? It's like a blanket. After school, then you use. You can't even use during school hours. So I think this is I think this is still the right move to sort of like force them to keep the phones in class. Because there has been students itself, all right, from the article that actually mentioned that they actually focus a bit better in class. They don't feel the compulsion to reach into their bag in a secretive manner to check for notifications. A lot of them say that they don't even know why they do that, but they know that they have to do that. It's very habitual. It's very habitual from there. So we have also seen canteen tables, all right, to be remodeled into round tables so that it
encourage social interaction. So I think you and I both agree that generally this is the right move. But I think we also have to talk about what are we so a few other things that we have to discuss. Number one, let's talk about enforceability. And as well as what are we taking away when we completely take away the kids' phones? So let's talk about from the enforceability point of view as well. So I understand that right now in its current iteration, we have the kids which are supposed to be putting their phones into a locker. But I think what's to stop students from having like a burner phone, like a
okay.
So and if let's say, I mean, of course, in a classroom, like there are 40 students within a classroom, like 30 plus 40 students. How can the school teacher really be super duper sure that the student has surrendered their phone? Or they surrendered their main phone? And can the PLD also act as like some sort of work around for some of the functionality like social media. I think now there is mobile guardian that prevents the kids from actually using some of their socials. But I am aware of some students, they actually manage to hack their mobile guardian.
Some work around.
Yeah, there's always some workaround with regards to this lah.
Should we try to do like army style? We have like a bunk IC, but now we have a phone IC in the class itself.
and if let's say people surrender the just a burner phone, and then the phone IC knows that the person has two phones, right? Then it is that person's responsibility to pauto, is it?
Yes. Wow. Then it's like we are trying.
Then you can always tip off the phone IC, you know.
Yeah, but
you can always tip off the phone IC to go and
in school it's a bit tough because whatever actions that they do is under heavy scrutiny lah, and it has to be, I will feel, is under ministry directed. So it's top down, you know. But in tuition centers itself, I mean, I will be honest first, is that I am not okay with students using phone when I'm lecturing or going through questions. They can put the phone on the table, all right, but I mean, as a courtesy, usually the older kids, they will flip it upside down. So, you know, the screen is facing away. Primary school kids, they probably don't even have this, but it's the Sec 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit difficult to ask them to keep in their bags and all, but we cannot totally ask them not to have phones because my habits here, I think that you adopt the same habit, is that at the end of the session, they will take pictures of their notations and send to their parents group chat, so the parents know that they are doing their work.
Yeah, so for secondary school kids, I know that there are parents who deliberately take away their kids' phones, and when their kids' phones are gone, it really makes it super difficult to contact them. There are some students that, like for example, I tell the kid, okay, I want you to prepare this paper for I want you to prepare this particular paper, and then the kid comes to class and then he hasn't done the paper at all because the parent has actually taken away the phone, thinking that it's supposed to help the student, but to us it does us a disservice. I have also students who have not like due to some last minute complications, they can't make it physically for class, right? And they can't make it for lesson, and then they have no means to contact me at all. And there are some students a bit ridiculous. They reach out to me via Instagram. Like the only way
they DM us lah.
The only way to reach out to us is to DM our public profile, you know. So I don't think that this is the right platform to be contacting us by for academic work. Okay, but sure, I think if let's say you really have no access, okay lah. So for us as a tuition school, I don't know. I feel that phones are very indispensable. At least from the secondary school onwards. At least from secondary school onwards. I believe I've made my point clear. Like from a tuition school perspective, for us at the very least, how we perform our operations, phones are pretty indispensable.
So should we make it such that during the signing up process, we have to explicitly ask what are the phone curfew hours? Like, because the communication itself to parents, yes, we need, all right, but we also want to make sure that the kids itself are also able to speak with us freely.
Yes, I think this might
be
something. So
email, okay? Email, okay? DM, okay?
Email is fine, but I think at the very least that there must be some open line of communication. I think from a school perspective, and not just school, like just from a classroom perspective in general, we also have to ask ourselves, like, what are we taking away when we restrict phones as well? So I believe there may be some teachers that make use of phones during the classroom setting. Like I do believe that some of my friends in the ministry, they use Kahoot quite often, especially for the lower levels, to increase the student engagement. And of course, Kahoot, I mean, I'm pretty sure most of us here have played Kahoot. So this requires you to have your own device, right?
But have you also thought of having the devices whether it's in a tuition setting or in the school setting, could lead to. I mean, this is a far shot, but could lead to bullying cases. So.
Oh. Yeah. Definitely, there will be some form of cyberbullying, right? Like where people take videos or maybe they will flood somebody's.
Yeah. I mean, okay. We see in double H. If I have the phone, all right, and again, this is
I think we actually have students who have gone through this where like their classmates mass send them
correct.
Like mean
More
texts.
on a malicious intent, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. I think this is a totally different like cyberbullying is a totally different topic altogether. And I do not think that banning the phones in the school will prevent this from happening.
Okay.
But I think it does impose certain limits on, like, say, the time and the space in which it can occur. So it will definitely only occur like outside school hours and whatnot lah. Yeah.
Then
so
should if the school is clamping down on phone usage, then should the schools also, again, this is a big conversation, not for today, but just thinking points for everyone that's listening, but should the schools also have a say in what the student can or cannot post on their socials? I mean, in NS time, myself, I mean, if you were to take a photo and you're drawing rifle from your arm squad and you post it on socials, I think you're going to get one-time jala already.
Yeah.
So, but for schools, it's like, if I take selfies in the toilet, can I post it or not?
I think this is also a good move. Yeah, I think definitely the school should have some regulation, but I do think that the main issue here is what's the stick, right? So how are we going to punish the students if, let's say, they are caught like taking pictures, and what's the level of severity of the punishment? I think in NS, if I recall now, they have like certain zones like red zone, yellow zone, and I don't know all the different kinds of zone colors. If, let's say, you take picture, I don't know what's the maximum sentence you can get, but we do know that for army there are very concrete consequences that you will face. Like, I don't know, maybe being sent to DB or maybe
detention
getting
barracks.
charged. Okay, but for schools, how severe can we push it? Expulsion for using phones, suspension. I really don't know, but I do think that this is something that should be considered.
So what, next time in the
like-
class when you're taking nominal role, the teachers ask, hey, Weiren, can I have your Instagram handler? Then you're supposed to surrender your handler.
Yeah.
I mean, then you can make a spam account or something like that.
Yes. So there's also the internet, like how do we trace all these people who post, right? Yeah, so I do believe that enforceability is going to be an issue. Yeah.
So, I mean, to draw a conclusion over here, I will want to say that we can never outrace and outpace technology. I think we are just waiting for the next Facebook to happen, the next Twitter, and the next Snapchat, the next X to happen. And rather than to outsmart, I think we have to cultivate a set of habits, all right, starting from young. I might sound a little bit pessimistic, but I think that for the kids that are young, it's just a matter of inevitability. Like, how long can we keep this floodgate, from opening up and all? And I do personally feel like cell phones is inevitable. You lock them up, there will always be naysayers that says that, what if I need to contact my kids? So going back to the old school way in primary school, at least for our time, the principal will say that, hey, so-and-so, please come to the general office.
Yes.
Yeah.
We page the
page,
student.
I mean, it's a little bit archaic, but I think it works.
Yes.
Yep. So what about for you? Do you think this cell phone thing, the duality here, are you tending more towards evil or tending more towards evil good? Or you tending more towards that this is...
I mean, it's always, mobile usage has always been a double-edged sword. I am mostly for the banning of mobile usage in schools. Though I do believe that there are some things which have to be seriously considered in terms of execution. The things that you have brought up, for example, the banning or the restriction of what students can post. I think this is something that we can look a little bit more into. But yeah, generally I do think that this is a good move, though outside of the school context, from our position as a tuition school, I don't think that we are ready to completely do the same. And completely ban.
I think the school has to be a first mover.
Yeah. We cannot ban because I think we've elaborated quite a bit already. Our operations actually require the students to be contactable. And to maintain an open line of communication.
Okay, so this is our first podcast episode. So usually at the end of it, we will try to do a overall emotion of what we feel the topic is about. So just to talk about it, TakChek over here is actually the Hokkien term for study. All right, so you can see this guy furiously, scribbling. So if we find it to be a very study relatable thing, it's an essential thing that is important for the education movement, we will vote and say that this topic is TakChek. All right, so on another term over here, you can see PekChek over here. All right, PekChek, a very, very agitated look. We feel that this is a very frustrating topic, probably has very little grounding and sort of like a minor inconvenience for this whole education thing that's happening. All right, so at the end of it, we'll usually just emote by saying TakChek or PekChek. Are we open to half, like TakChek?
Yeah, of course, or maybe both, right?
So it says TakPek over here. Okay, can get. Okay, so we have talked about this for a lengthy period. So what do you think? You need some time to think?
No. I'm fine.
You're fine.
I think I've made my point very clear. I personally feel that this is a TakChek. I think this is the right decision for the ministry to move towards. All right. For our school, I think definitely we should be examining our mobile policies a little bit more strongly to see how we can be in line with the ministry standards. But as it stands, I do think that this is a good direction for schools to move towards.
I, not doing for theatrics, think that this is a very PekChek kind of a conversation to have. There's a certain degree of conundrum over here because while there is for myself, I would definitely hope students give me the focal point when I'm teaching. They don't get distracted by notifications. I myself also feel like if my kid is in the tuition center, I will want to be informed of whether are they doing their due diligence. All right, but I am PekChek because I know that the cell phones probably 10% of the time will be for official matters. 90% of the time they will be on games and social media and interaction. So as mentioned quite clearly on my stance, I think this is an inevitable thing. All right, it's just for the next Facebook, the next X, the next Snapchat to happen. Then I think there's going to be another trend and events to come from there. Yeah. All right, so we want to know what you think, all right? And if you have any comments, you can drop your comments down in the platform that you are listening to this. I believe it should be on YouTube, Spotify, or we'll think about it, all right? And we'll post it out here for all of you to comment. And if there's any way that you want us to improve on the show or any topics that you think that it could be shed on light that is more on the case of education lifestyle that we're trying to talk about, do let us know as well. All right. Thank you for tuning into our premiere podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.